Just when you think you've got this business all figured out and you know exactly what to do, when you've watched all of my videos on how to make better music for TV shows, and you've watched everybody else's videos, and you've read all the books, and you've done all the learning, and you say, yes, I finally get it, you are going to discover that you don't got it after all, and you're going to hit these moments where you feel so confused by the industry that you are in that you wonder if you've been gaslighted into thinking that you are halfway decent when clearly you know absolutely nothing. And you're going to start to question all the teaching that I and others have been giving you, and you're going to wonder if we're all a bunch of charlatans who don't know our ass from our elbow. And that's because this industry is confusing, and you better brace yourself for the fact that there are going to be so many head-scratching moments in your career that you're going to wonder if you've just gone crazy or if you're living in some fantasy dream world. It's going to happen. Hello rock stars, Matt Vanderbo here, and in this video, which will be the final video in the Music 201 course, I'm going to tell you why this industry can be so confusing, and I'm going to share with you 3 ways that will leave you scratching your head so much you're going to dig furrows into your scalp. This is a confusing business. Or as one of my best friends, a guy named Chuck Henry, recently told me when we were hanging out talking music, he said, this industry doesn't make a lick of sense. And he's so right. It doesn't make any sense sometimes. I mean, we can try to strategize our music until we're blue in the face. You can do all the things you are supposed to do and still discover that your music never gets past gatekeepers or never gets dropped into TV shows, thus never making you any money, thus turning your hopes and dreams into nothing more than a dead-end passion project. And the reason this happens is because everyone outside of us as composers and the music library owner, who is probably a musician on some level, everyone outside of those 2 people are most likely not musicians at all. And they don't really know what they're looking for, nor do they often know how to even describe that to musicians because they don't know music terms. And so one eventuality that you will probably run into is that you are going to get a brief delivered to you by a music library. Now, the brief probably came from the music supervisor in conversations with the director or the showrunner of the show or movie, okay? So that person pops instructions or directions down to the music supervisor, who in turn kicks it to the music library, who in turn kicks it to the composer. And it might have a bunch of reference tracks and say, well, we needed to do this at this point, or we need a bunch of cues that sound quirky, mischievous, sneaky, heartbreaking, tear-jerking, suspenseful, and you'll get a bunch of descriptors for that music, and hopefully the reference tracks put you in the ballpark, and then you're going to spend a bunch of time making that music only to deliver it to the music library and have them say,
sorry, the show has changed directions. They need tropical pop music now.
Or you'll run into the situation, which happens to me all the time, where an ad agency reaches out to a library for music for a commercial. And that commercial is a very brief 20, 30, 15 second sometimes thing. That library owner passes instructions to me, and they're extremely specific with hit points and everything else. And so I'll spend all the time doing what I think is the perfect piece of music, get it kicked around in a day because they are under the gun, only to find out that that commercial ended up using something completely different because they changed strategies once they got the music in and realized that none of the music that was supplied to them really did what they wanted it to do. So they went in a completely different direction. And you wonder to yourself, why did I spend all that time making this music if you weren't even going to use this style? If you were going to use indie pop instead of dramedy, why didn't you tell me to make indie pop music? So again, all these people above you, the composer and the library owner, are all human beings with probably not much music knowledge. And all they are keying on is whether your music makes them feel a certain way when they're watching their ad or their TV show or their movie. If whatever music they put in there gets the emotion that they want to get across to the audience, then you've got a winner. But if it's just slightly off, then they're not going to want it because there's far too much money involved in these productions to have something do like 98% of the job or get a viewer 98% of the way there on the emotional scale, but still leave 2% to chance. Not when we're dealing with these types of budgets and when the stakes are so big. We're talking millions and millions of dollars of potential revenue if this ad or if this movie hits people the right way. They ain't messing around with 98%. And so they throw this music in and it doesn't quite do what we need it to do. So let's try something different. And so you as the poor composer are left just in the dust because you put all of your other work aside so that you could make this one thing that you were told to make, only to find out not only do they not want what you made, but they want something completely different. And you wasted an entire day to make something that basically went directly into the trash. Yay for you. So that's the first instance that I can think of that is going to make you question your fundamental reality in this business. But the second one is equally head scratching. And this is when you spend a bunch of time making a full, robust piece of music, which, I mean, you may think it is your best cue or your best song that you've ever written. And you deliver it to the library. They say, yeah, sure, I'll take it. Boom. I'm going to get it right over the show. And then you find out, hey, they're going to be using my music. And you get all excited, only to watch the show and discover that they used your bass and drums mix, which is just a stripped down version of your song, because you're always going to supply these libraries with different versions of your music. And the most minimal one you're going to send them is the bass and the drums. I mean, there's nothing else there. It's bass and it's drums, duh. All that other stuff is gone in the bass and drum mix. Yet that is what shows end up using quite often. And you're going to ask yourself, well, why in the hell did I spend 3 or 4 or 5 hours making this full, robust, amazing sounding track if all you used was the bass and drums? Like, I could have done that in 5 minutes. Seriously. I mean, can't we program a quick drum beat, throw some bass over it in 5 minutes? It's all the other stuff that takes the time. And then when it gets to the show, it's all that other stuff that they throw away, just leaving the bare bones bass and drums. Guys, I tell you, this has happened to me far more times than I can count, but it should not give you license to just make a bunch of bass and drum mixes and call it good. You need the full cue, okay? But oftentimes that bass and drums version is the one that gets thrown into a show because that is the most non-obtrusive. It's something that just kind of sits back and allows the characters or people on screen to talk without musical interference. And what you need to remind yourself when you see that your drum and bass version is what made it into a show, you need to remind yourself that you got paid just as much for that as you would have with something else. So celebrate the win, cash the check, and then move on to the next track. And try not to think about the fact that your musical genius was not actually put into a show, and instead they put in something that probably any 11-year-old could put together instead of you. But that's okay. And the third and final way that you are going to be left wondering, is when you've got a couple different buckets worth of music. Some of your stuff being what you would consider your best musical output that you've ever made. Like the stuff that if you were to say, this is what really represents my genius, here's the good stuff. And then, there's this other stuff. I would call it more like album filler. You know, back in the 80s or 90s where bands would have a few good hits and then the rest of the album was filled up with a bunch of stuff just so that the album itself would be like 45 minutes long. What is going to probably happen to you at some point is the filler stuff, or the stuff that is not nearly as good, or that you just didn't give much thought or hope to. That is what is going to be used over and over and over on TV shows when this stuff that you thought was great just languishes in a music library, or worse yet, languishes on your hard drive because music libraries won't even sign it. And this is probably the most befuddling thing of all. When you start to get placements and you start looking at your cue sheets and you see your name attached to certain tracks, and you go back through and you listen to them on your hard drive, and you realize, oh man, that was one of those crappy things that I made. I can't believe anybody actually used that. This has happened to me so many times that I've been left wondering if I should just focus on making quote unquote crappy music, because it seems to do better than the stuff that I'm really proud of. But this is just the reality of the business. So if I could just impress upon you guys one final thought for this video and to wrap up this whole Music 201, like get in the right mental space type of thing, it would be this: nothing in this music business makes any sense at all. You just have to keep putting in the work and make the most educated choices you can when it comes to composing your music. Try to put the strategies in place that I preach. If you've heard other teachings from other people, then do what they say. Try it all. Some of it's going to work, some of it's not going to work. And eventually you at some point will be just like me, wondering if you actually know anything about this business or if it's just all one great mystery that you can't figure out. But at the end of the day, all we can do is make strategic choices to give ourselves the edge as much as we can, knowing that human beings on the other end of things have their own taste and their own preferences and their own emotional reactions to things. And they don't quite know how to verbalize that to you, which is going to leave you even more confused than you were in the beginning. But we're dealing with human beings, not robots, and that's just the way this industry goes. So since you guys have been such great students for the past however long I've been doing this, I'm gonna finish this video with a scholastic academic joke. Did you guys hear about the Cyclops who closed his school? He only had one pupil. Hey, you guys, it's been real. It's been fun. I'm going to do a little wrap-up video as my next one, which will actually be the true end of the Music 201 course. And then we're moving on to something completely different. So stick with me. Thanks for watching all my videos. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Toodles!